Hey guys, it's Lim. So we've started this master key system, and here's the introduction. So let's get to it. Before any environment, successful or otherwise, can be created, action of some kind is necessary. And before any action is possible, there must be thought of some kind, either conscious or unconscious. And a thought is the product of mind. It becomes evident that mind is the creative center from which all activities proceed. It is not expected that any of the inherent laws which governs the modern business would, as it is at present constitute, can be suspended or repealed by any force on the same plane. But it is axiomatic that a higher law may overcome a lower one. Tree life caused the sap to ascend, not by repealing the law of gravity, but by surmounting it. To control circumstances, a knowledge of certain scientific principles of mind action is required. Such knowledge is a most valuable asset. It may be gained by degrees and put into practice as fast as learned. Power overcome circumstances is one of its fruits. Health, harmony, and prosperity are assets upon its balance sheet. It costs only the labor of harvesting its greatest resources. The naturalist who spends much of his time in observing visible phenomena is constantly creating power in that portion of his brain set apart for observation. The result is that he becomes very much more expert and skillful in knowing what he sees and grasping an infinite number of details at a glance than does his unobserving friend. He has reached this facility by exercising of his brain. He deliberately chooses to enlarge his brain power in the line of observation, so he deliberately exercises that special faculty over and over, with increasing attention and concentration. Now we have the result. A man learned in the law of observation far above his fellow, or on the other hand, one can by stolid inaction allow the delicate brain matter to harden and ossify until his whole life is barren and fruitless. Every thought tends to become a material thing. Our desires are seed thoughts that have a tendency to sprout and grow and blossom and bear fruit. We are sowing these seeds every day. What shall the harvest be? Each of us today is a result of his past thinking. Later we shall be the result of what we are now thinking. We create our own character, personality, and environment by the thought which we originate or entertain, thought seeking its own. The law of mental attraction is an exact parallel to the law of atomic infinity. Mental currents are as real as electric, magnetic, or heat current. We attract the current which we are in harmony. Are we selecting those which will be conducive to our success? This is the important question. Lines of least resistance are formed by the constant action of the mind. The activity of the brain reacts upon the particular facility of the brain employed. The latent power of the mind is developed by constant exercise. Each form of its activity becomes more and perfect by practice. Exercise for the development of the mind present a variety of motives for consideration. They involve the development of the perceptive faculties, the cultivation of the emotions, the quickening of the imagination, the symmetrical unfoldment of the intuitive faculties, which without being able to give a reason frequently impels or prohibits choice. And finally, the power of the mind may be cultivated by the development of the moral character. The greatest man, said Seneca, is he who chooses right with invincible determination. The greatest power of the mind then depends upon its exercise in moral channels, and therefore require that every conscious mental effort should involve a moral end. A developed moral consciousness modifies consideration of motives, and increases the force and continuity of actions. Consequently, the well-developed symmetrical character necessitate good physical, mental, and moral health, and this combination creates initiative, power, restless force, and necessarily success. It will be found that nature is constantly seeking to express harmony in all things, is forever trying to bring about an harmonious adjustment. For every discord, every wound, every difficulty. Therefore, when thought is harmonious, nature begins to create the material conditions. When we understand that mind is the great creative power, what does not become possible? With desire as the great creative energy, can we not see why desire should be cultivated, controlled, and directed in our lives and destinies? Men and women of strong mentality who dominate those around them and often far removed from them, really imminent currents charged with power, which coming in contact with the mind of others cause the desire of the latter to be in accord with the mind of the strong individuality. Great master of men possess this power to a marked degree. Their influence is felt far and near, and they secure compliance with their wishes by making others want to act in accord with them. In this way, men of strong desire and imagination may and do exert powerful influence over the minds of others, leading the latter in the way desired. The magnetic persons attract, allure, and draw. They are emotional and capture the will of others. No man is ever created without the inherent power in himself to help himself. The personality that understands its own intellectual and moral power of conquest will certainly assert itself. It is this truth which an infamed world craves today, the possibility of asserting slumbering intellectual courage that clearly discerns, and the moral courage that grandly undertakes is open to all. This is a divine potency in every human being. We speak of the sun as rising and setting, though we know that this is simply an appearance of motion. To our sense, the earth is apparently standing still, and yet we know it is revolving rapidly. We speak of a bell as a sounding body, yet we know that all that this bell can do is to produce vibration in the air. When these vibrations become at the rate of 16ths a second, they cause a sound to be heard in the mind. It is possible for the mind to hear vibrations up to the rate of 38,000 a second. When the number increases beyond this, all is silence again, so that we know that the sound is not in the bell, it is in our own mind. We speak and even think of the sun as giving light, yet we know it is simply giving forth energy which produces vibrations in the ether at the rate of 400 trillions a second, causing what we are termed light waves, so that we know that what we call light is simply a mode of motion, and the only light there is the sensation caused in the mind by the motion of these waves. When the member of vibration increases, the light changes in color, each change in color being caused by shorter and more rapid vibrations, so that although we speak of the rose as being red, the grass as being green, or the skies as being blue, we know that these colors exist only in our minds and are the sensation experienced by us as the result of the vibrations of light. When the vibrations are reduced below 400 trillions a second, they no longer affect us as light, but we experience the sensation of heat. So we have come to know that appearances exist for us only in our consciousness. Even time and space become annihilated, time being the only experience of succession. There be no past or future except as a thought relation to the present. In the last analysis, therefore, we know that one principle governs and controls all there is. Every atom is forever conserved. What is part with must be inevitably received somewhere. It cannot perish, and is only exists for use. It can go only where it is attracted, and therefore required. We can receive only what we give, and we may give only to those who can receive. And it remains with us to determine our rate of growth and degree of harmony that we shall express. The laws under which we live are designed solely for our advantage. These laws are immutable and we cannot escape from their operation. All the great eternal forces act in solemn silence, but it is in our power to place ourselves in harmony with them, and thus experience a life of cooperative peace and happiness. Difficulties, inharmonies, obstacles indicate that we are either refusing to give out what we no longer need, or refusing to accept what we require. Growth is attained through an exchange of the old for the new, of the good for the better. It is a conditional or reciprocal action. For each of us is a complete thought entity, and the completeness makes it possible for us to receive only what we give. We cannot obtain what we lack if we tediously clinging to what we have. The principle of attraction operates to bring to us only what may be to our advantage. We are able consciously to control our conditions as we come to sense the purpose of what we attract, and are able to extract from each experience only what we require for further growth. Our ability to do this determines the degree of harmony or happiness we attain. The ability to appreciate what we require for our growth continually increases as we reach a higher plane. The broader vision and the greater our ability to know what we require, the more certain we shall be to discern its presence, to attract it, and to absorb it. Nothing may reach us except what is necessary for our growth. All conditions and experiences that come to us do so for our benefit. Difficulties and obstacles will continue to come until we absorb their wisdom and gather from them the essential for further growth. That we reap what we sow is mathematically exact. We gain permanent strength exactly to the extent of the effort required to overcome our difficulties. The inexorable requirements of growth demand that we exert the greatest degree of attraction for what is perfectly in accord with us. Our highest happiness will be best attained through our understanding and conscious cooperation with the nature laws. Our mind force are often bound by the paralyzing suggestion that comes to us from the crude thinking of the race, and which are accepted and acted upon without question. Impressions of fear, of worry, of disability, and of inferiority are given to us daily. These are sufficient reason in themselves why men achieve so little, why the lives of a multitude are so barren of results, when all the time there are possibilities within them, which need only the liberating touch of appreciation and the wholesome ambition to expand into real greatness. Women, perhaps even more than men, have been subject to these conditions. This is true because of their finer susceptibilities, making them more open to thought vibrations from the other minds, and become the flow of negative and repressive thoughts has been aimed more especially at them. But this is being overcome. Florence Nightingale overcame it when she rose in the Crimea to heights of tender sympathy and executive ability before unknown among women. Clara Barton, the head of the Red Cross, overcame it when she wrote similar work in the armies of Union. Jenny Lind overcame it when she showed her ability to command enormous financial reward, while at the same time gratifying the passion, desire of her nature and reaching the front rank to her day in musical art. And there is a long list of women singers, philanthropists, writers, and actresses who have proved themselves capable of reaching the greatest literally, dramatic, artistic, and sociological achievement. Women as well as men are beginning to do their own thinking. They have awakened to some conception of their possibilities. The demand that if life holds any secrets, these shall be disclosed, and no previous time has the influence and potency of thought received such careful and discriminating investigation. While a few seers have grasped the great fact that mind is the universal substances, base of all things, never before has this viral truth penetrated the more general consciousness. Many minds are now striving to give the wonderful truth definite utterance. Modern science has taught us that light and sound are simply different intensities of motion, and this may lead to discoveries of force within men that could not have been conceived of until this revelation was made. A new era has dawned, and now, standing in its light, men see something of the vastness of the meaning of life, sometimes of its grandeur, within that life is the germ of infinity potencies. Our life convinced that man's possibility of attractment cannot be measured, that boundary line to his own march are unthinkable. Standing on this height, he finds that he can draw new power to himself from the infinite energy which of he is a part. The end. Thank you guys for watching, and I hope you guys enjoyed it. Stay in tune, because next will be what I've learned from this first portion. And I'll see you guys next time. Bye!